Welcome to HFY Sci-Fi Love and War Story. Join us as we explore unexpected tales, complex relationships, and the pivotal moments that determine the fate of the universe, in a world where every character faces life-defining choices. In the vast expanse of the universe, among millions of stars, there are wars that even the mightiest of aliens cannot predict. An empire is on the brink of collapse, and its only hope lies in one human, a mere soldier, yet one with a power no one can control. The story begins when an alien queen, Serapis, places all her hope in Ethan Cross, a soldier who survived an impossible battle with relentless invaders, and who may now be the only one able to save her empire. Let us dive into the secrets hidden within Ethan's power, and the unforeseen consequences that arise as that power slips beyond control, in a life-and-death struggle for survival. The air crackles with an unnatural energy, heavy with the scent of scorched metal and the iron tang of blood. Above, the alien sky burns with hues of deep crimson and black, a stark contrast to the jagged mountains that rise like ancient teeth, their tips veiled in a thick, swirling cloud of red smoke. The ground trembles under the relentless pounding of war, fissures splitting open as the earth itself seems to mourn the loss of an empire. The battlefield is a chaos of sound screams of dying warriors, the whir of plasma rounds slicing through the air, and the heavy, relentless hum of the Havoc drones, those insect-like machines designed for one singular purpose: extermination. Their cold, metallic bodies reflect the fiery sky above, and each step they take echoes like the March of Doom. Queen Serapis stands tall amidst the destruction, her once glorious golden armor now battered and scorched, yet she remains unwavering, her posture regal even in the face of annihilation. Her skin, a shimmering shade of blue, glows eerily under the fiery light of the flames that lick at the edges of the battlefield. Her silver hair, long and fluid, dances in the wind, like the tendrils of a forgotten goddess. The fierce violet of her eyes, normally a symbol of strength and leadership, now hold a flicker of something far more rare: fear. Her voice, though calm, trembles with the weight of impending defeat. This is it. Our last stand. There's no turning back. Her gaze never wavers from the relentless onslaught of the Havoc drones, as their massive insectoid forms move with horrifying efficiency, cutting down her soldiers with brutal precision. Each drone, towering and sleek, moves with mechanical grace, their armor resistant to every form of attack the Zalkar warriors unleash. Plasma rounds bounce harmlessly off their exoskeletons, and for every Zalkar warrior felled, 100 more drones replace them, a swarm that seems impossible to defeat. Queen Serapis grips her plasma blade tightly, her clawed fingers digging into the hilt. She can feel her empire slipping away with every passing moment, the air thick with the scent of defeat. A cold wind howls through the wreckage, a stark reminder of the end that is drawing near. Serapis, whispering to herself, "We need something, anything to stop them." Her mind races, but she knows that there is nothing left: no allies, no reinforcements, only the machines and the relentless pull of oblivion. Her empire, once a force that had ruled across 1,000 worlds, is crumbling beneath the weight of an enemy that knows no mercy. The thought gnaws at her soul as she watches the smoke and fire rise, swallowing her people, her soldiers, her legacy. Queen Serapis walks swiftly through the dimly lit corridors of the Zalkar fortress, her golden armor scraping against the stone floor. Her every step echoes the hopelessness in her heart. At her side is Baroness Viaya, her trusted second-in-command, her dark red skin and wild blue hair whipping in the wind, a warrior born of the same empire now facing destruction. The distant sounds of war still echo in the air, the battlefield a hellish reminder of the failing strength of their forces. Serapis' violet eyes remain sharp, though her expression is filled with a quiet, unspoken tension. She stops in front of a large metal door, the cold surface reflecting the faint glow of the chaos outside. It is here, beneath the fortress, where the fate of the Empire may change, or meet its final end. Serapis, we have one last option. Baroness Viaya looks at her, disbelief flashing across her face. Her lips curl in frustration. You don't mean, her voice trails off, her words faltering in the face of the impossible. Serapis meets her gaze, her eyes colder than the depths of space. Bring me the human. Viaya's hesitation is palpable. Her mind races, struggling to reconcile the weight of the decision. For centuries, the Zalkar Empire had seen humans as nothing more than primitive creatures, barely crawling from their own planet. They were weak, undisciplined, and insignificant in the grand scheme of the galaxy. And yet, one human soldier had become the symbol of survival, a symbol that had defied logic and nature itself. Ethan Cross. Viaya, are you sure about this? Serapis clenches her fists, the raw emotion of desperation clear in her posture. He's our only hope. The doors to the prison cell slide open with a hiss, revealing the dim, cold interior. At the far side, sitting against the metal wall, is Ethan Cross. His body, once lean and muscular, is now worn and scarred, his dark eyes unreadable. Despite the harsh conditions, he radiates an aura of quiet strength. His rough voice breaks the silence as he lifts his head, meeting her gaze. Ethan, smirking, you finally need me? Serapis steps forward, her eyes narrowing as she stands above him, her presence overwhelming. She knows the price of this decision, the cost of relying on a human soldier, the one species she had always considered beneath her. But now, the gravity of her situation weighs heavily on her shoulders. Serapis, clenching her jaw, fight for me, and I will grant you anything you desire. Ethan's smirk widens slightly, the glint of amusement in his eyes. The silence that follows feels like an eternity, stretching between them, filled with the tension of an unspoken agreement. The room hums with the weight of their mutual understanding. For the first time in her life, Serapis feels a chill down her spine. She has just made a deal with the most dangerous being in the galaxy, someone who could save her empire, or bring it to its final destruction. The chamber hums with a tense silence as Ethan Cross stands before Queen Serapis. His body is bruised, his clothes torn from the brutal battles that preceded this moment, yet his composure remains unshaken. He stands tall, unafraid, despite the hostile gazes of the alien warriors surrounding him. The Zalkar warriors, towering and fierce in their armor, eye him with disdain, yet they cannot help but feel a slight unease in the air. He's human, a mere mortal in their eyes, but the air around him crackles with something different, something otherworldly. Queen Serapis, despite her own composed exterior, feels the heavy weight of the situation press upon her. Her violet eyes narrow as she watches Ethan carefully, her mind racing with uncertainty and curiosity. Serapis, your people cast you out. Even they fear you. Ethan, ever so casual, tilts his head slightly, his dark eyes gleaming with a hint of amusement. He takes a moment, as though savoring the tension, before answering, his voice low but steady. Ethan, yeah, well, humans have a bad habit of fearing what they don't understand. He leans back against the cold, metallic wall, his posture relaxed but somehow predatory. The warriors around him tense, their hands instinctively hovering over their weapons. Ethan's nonchalance only seems to fuel the air of unease, as though he's waiting for something. And they all know none of them have ever witnessed power like his. Queen Serapis, knowing what she must see, gives the order. Serapis, show me. Show me what you can do. Ethan takes a long breath, his gaze never leaving Serapis. Then, with a sudden shift, his presence in the room changes. The air seems to ripple, as though reality itself is bending around him. His eyes glow a dim, eerie gold, and the temperature in the room drops. A single, invisible wave of energy bursts outward from his body. The room shakes violently, the walls groaning and cracking under the weight of the force that Ethan commands. The alien warriors, menacing and towering, are effortlessly lifted off their feet, suspended in midair, their bodies writhing against an invisible grip. The stone pillars that line the chamber tremble, dust falling in heavy clouds, and the warriors are forced to claw at the air in a desperate attempt to free themselves from the force that holds them. But it's no use. Ethan stands still, seemingly unaffected, his expression cold and calculating. Serapis, in awe, her voice barely a whisper, "What are you?" Ethan smirks, his golden eyes locking with hers, an eerie gleam of confidence in their depths. "Ethan," calmly, "your only hope." The tension in the room is palpable. The Zalkar warriors, whose once unwavering confidence had been their greatest strength, now look on in shock and fear. They have never seen anything like this before. Ethan, the human, has harnessed power that is beyond their understanding, beyond anything they had imagined. The battle that awaits Ethan outside the fortress is unlike any he has faced before. The battlefield lies in ruins, the earth scorched by the relentless war. But as Ethan steps onto the war-torn ground, his eyes lock onto the horizon, where the first wave of Havoc drones is beginning its charge. These machines, forged in the void of space, have only one purpose: annihilation. Ethan's form is predatory, his movements deliberate and precise. His body is a coiled spring, ready to strike. The Zalkar warriors follow him, hesitant but resolute, their hearts racing in their chests. They had once ruled countless worlds, but now, they look to this human as their last, fragile hope. Queen Serapis, standing behind him, whispers a warning, her voice tight with unease. "Serapis, softly, you promised me control, human. Do not make me regret this." Ethan doesn't acknowledge her words. Instead, he raises his hand, and the very air around him shudders with the intensity of the power he's about to unleash. The Havoc drones, massive and unyielding, charge forward with brutal force. Their plasma cannons roar to life, firing a barrage of fiery bolts aimed straight at Ethan. But as the plasma rounds hurtle toward him, something unimaginable happens. The air itself seems to bend and twist, an invisible force moving with a mind of its own. Ethan's body becomes a blur, and with a single flick of his wrist, he stops the plasma fire dead in its tracks. Time seems to slow as the plasma bolts freeze midair, suspended by Ethan's will. The Zalkar warriors watch in stunned silence as the bolts reverse their course, hurling back at the drones with terrifying speed. Explosions rip through the air as the very weapons of the drones turn on them. Their once indestructible forms are torn apart in seconds. Ethan moves like a god. Every step is purposeful, every movement is pure, controlled devastation. His eyes gleam with a terrifying golden hue as his power continues to surge outward. He's no longer simply a soldier, he is an unstoppable force, wielding destruction with a casual flick of his fingers. One of the Havoc drones, towering and massive, lunges toward him. Ethan doesn't flinch. He moves with the precision of a predator, appearing behind the drone in the blink of an eye. His hands rise, and in a single motion, he rips the drone apart. Not with weapons, no, his will is enough. The metal twists and contorts, like paper caught in a storm. It collapses into a crumpled mess of broken parts at his feet. Zalkar warrior, breathing heavily, eyes wide with disbelief, this is impossible. Serapis stands a few paces behind him, her heart racing in her chest. She watches, transfixed, as Ethan annihilates the remaining drones with an elegance and power she never could have predicted. She had underestimated the human, thinking him nothing more than a tool, a weapon to use. But now, as she watches him, she begins to understand just how little she truly knows. For the first time, Serapis feels fear not for the enemy she faces, but for the creature she has just unleashed. Ethan is a weapon, yes, but he is something more than that. A force of nature, something beyond the realm of even the Zalkar's understanding. And yet, she realizes, with a pang of dread, that he is their only hope. The battlefield, once a place of controlled chaos, now becomes a swirling vortex of destruction. The air is thick with tension, charged with an energy so potent it bends the very fabric of reality. Ethan's power, once sharp and focused, now grows wild, unfurling like an uncontrollable storm. The ground beneath his feet cracks open, deep fissures spreading outward like veins of a dying planet. The earth itself groans in agony as his energy pulses with increasing intensity, threatening to swallow everything around him. Zalkar warriors, normally unflinching in the face of death, now stumble and falter, their once steely resolve giving way to fear. They look at Ethan as though he is no longer the human they once underestimated, but something far more dangerous. His body seems to shimmer with a golden light, an aura so powerful it warps the air around him, causing the very atmosphere to hum with a low, ominous vibration. The cracks in the ground widen, and the air grows heavier, suffocating. Serapis, shouting, her voice desperate, "Ethan! Control it!" But Ethan's eyes are distant, clouded with a storm of raw power surging through him. His breath comes in ragged gasps, his body trembling as the force inside him continues to spiral out of control. Ethan, struggling, his voice strained, "I can't. It's too much." The chaos intensifies. Ethan's movements are erratic, his body writhing with energy he cannot contain. The Zalkar warriors who had stood with him just moments ago are now knocked off their feet, not by the enemy, but by the very power he's unleashed. Their bodies are thrown back with the force of an invisible wave, crashing into the earth with sickening thuds. The sky above seems to crack and splinter, the swirling clouds twisting into unnatural shapes as the energy spirals ever outward. Serapis watches in horror as her own warriors are struck down, not by the Havoc drones, but by Ethan's chaotic power. She feels her heart race, her mind whirling in disbelief. In one moment, Ethan has turned the tide of the battle, but now, he's become the very force that threatens to destroy everything around him. Baroness Viaya, nervously, her voice shaking, "He's too dangerous, my queen." The ground beneath their feet trembles again, a deep rumble that feels like the earth is about to split open. Serapis looks at Ethan, torn between the victory he has brought and the destruction he's now causing. He is no longer just a human soldier. He's something else entirely, an uncontrollable force that could tear the very fabric of their world apart. Serapis, to herself, whispering with a mix of awe and fear, "What have we unleashed?" The storm of energy around Ethan reaches a crescendo. The very air seems to burn with his power, and it feels as though the universe itself is holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable explosion. Serapis' hands tremble at her sides as she watches him, unsure of whether to hope for his control or fear the moment he loses it completely. The battlefield lies in ruins, a silence settling over the once ferocious fight. Ethan collapses to his knees, his body trembling with exhaustion, sweat streaming down his face. His golden eyes flicker, the bright light within them dimming as the storm of energy inside him slowly ebbs away. The ground around him smolders, the cracks in the earth still glowing with the remnants of his unleashed power. His breath comes in jagged gasps, each inhale a struggle, as though the very force inside him had drained him of everything. Serapis approaches him, her once steady steps now faltering slightly as she watches the man who had become both her savior and her nightmare. She stops a few feet from him, her eyes softening for the first time since this war began. The chaos around them has ceased, but the silence between them is deafening. Serapis, softly, her voice carrying a deep weight of realization, you saved us. But at what cost? Ethan raises his head slowly, his golden eyes still flickering with the last remnants of power. He looks at her, his gaze tired but steady, and for a moment, the human within him shines through the cracks of the godlike power that had taken over. Ethan, breathing heavily, his voice hoarse, I don't know. But I couldn't control it. Serapis looks down at him, her heart heavy with the burden of the choice she now faces. She had relied on Ethan, trusted him to turn the tide of war, but now, she wonders if she's made a fatal mistake. She steps forward, and for the first time, her hand reaches out to him, not as a queen, but as a leader desperate to hold on to whatever hope she has left. Serapis, determined, yet uncertain, we'll figure it out together. Her words hang in the air, a promise, and a plea all in one. Ethan's lips twitch into a faint, weary smile as he reaches up to clasp her hand, his grip weak but sincere. The storm inside him may have quieted, but the future is uncertain, and they both know it. The battlefield is eerily quiet, the once thriving war zone now nothing more than smoldering ruins. The Havoc drones, once invincible, are now nothing but twisted heaps of metal, their cores shattered and burned. The Zalkar warriors, those who have survived, stand in stunned silence. They look at Ethan, not with disdain or fear anymore, but with awe and reverence. He is no longer just the human who helped them win, he is something more. Serapis stands at the edge of the battlefield, her gaze sweeping over the wreckage of her empire. The fires have burned down, but the weight of the war still lingers. Ethan may have defeated the Havoc drones, but the war within him is far from over. His power is a force unlike any the galaxy has ever known, and Serapis knows it could be their greatest weapon or their greatest threat. Serapis, reflecting, her voice distant, you are not just a weapon. You are something far more dangerous. Ethan, standing beside her, cracks a faint grin, his golden eyes still glowing dimly. His body is battered, his energy exhausted, but his mind is sharp, as always. Ethan, grinning faintly, his voice low but confident, yeah. And I'm just getting started. The silence stretches between them, thick with the weight of what has transpired. Serapis watches him carefully, her mind racing with the implications of what he's become. Ethan is both a symbol of victory and a harbinger of doom. She knows the galaxy may never be the same again after what has been unleashed. The Zalkar warriors, though battered, begin to gather around them, their faces a mixture of awe, fear, and respect. Serapis looks at them, knowing they are at a crossroads. Her empire has survived, but the true battle, the one that will shape the future of the galaxy, has only just begun. Serapis, to herself, whispering, what have I done? The camera lingers on her, her face a mask of determination and fear. The empire has been saved, but the future is a storm of uncertainty, and as the scene fades to black, the only certainty is that Ethan Cross, the human who has defied the very laws of nature, will play a pivotal role in whatever comes next. Thank you for joining us on HFY Sci-Fi Love and War Story, where mysterious adventures and thrilling battles unfold. The wars of the universe, life-defining decisions, and complex characters will continue to be explored in the episodes ahead. Every moment of this journey holds surprises, unpredictable events, and relationships that touch the very core of life and death. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any part of the story. We have much more excitement and intensity coming your way. Together, we'll keep exploring this vast universe, where every moment is a choice, and every decision can change the fate of an empire. The universe never stops moving, and our story is far from over. We hope you continue to find incredible moments in this journey of discovery. See you in the next episode.